Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. You might be asking to what? Gotham Chess content, but also the Meltwater Champions Chess Tour. Some of you might remember that in the year 2021, we had this amazing online tour, and it was primarily due to the efforts of none other than Magnus Carlsen. So I know you're going to complain. You're going to be like, he's on the thumbnail again. You love Magnus. Listen, the YouTube algorithm loves Magnus. Don't blame me. And Magnus, not himself is responsible for the online tour, but he's obviously a massive push because of it. And Meltwater Chess 24, they put together a $1.6 million online tour for the year 2022. Yeah, and today is day number one. If you want all the rules and regulations, there's going to be a link in the description. There's a preliminary stage with 16 players. They play the prelims, and then there's a knockout segment. There is soccer scoring. So 3 points for a win, football scoring, 3 points for a win, 1 point for a draw, 0 points for a loss, obviously. Okay, on that note, it's time to review some games, and then afterward I will tell you who's in first place in the first day. It doesn't really matter because the top 8 qualify. So this first game is an appetizer game. It's the game between Andrei Yesipenko and Shahryar Mamedyarov, and it was a Philidor defense with d6, d4 takes. And you'll notice that this setup by black looks like a King's Indian, Pierce, it looks like a Sicilian Dragon. It's none of those things because black has an e-pawn in the middle that took white's d4 pawn. So this is the difference between the Philidor and one of those. And the Philidor is like, it's fine for black. It's pretty rare at top level because there are better defenses. But right here, Mamedyarov played an interesting move. He played the move h6, normally, Yesipenko is supposed to go back to f4 to maintain pressure on this pawn on h6, and it's a little bit difficult for black to castle, right? But okay, he plays bishop h4. This move is not that popular, and it has a very, very potent trap behind it. Here, black is supposed to play a6 to play b5, rook e8, very typical move to attack this pawn, bishop d7 followed by knight c6, but Mamedyarov plays knight to c6 on move number 9, which is just a relatively normal move. He's saying if you take, I'm going to play rook b8, bishop e6. Obviously, this is really stupid for you to do. You have absolutely no reason to take my knight on c6 and allow me to, to attack you on the queen side. And Yesipenko actually takes on c6 and proceeds to send a message to Mamedyarov in the game chat saying, oops, Mamedyarov's like, wait, I thought we couldn't message each other during the games. They actually can't. They can't do that. B takes c6. Knight d5 is not possible, but Mamedyarov loses the game to the move e5. Yup. You heard that right. I'm not clickbaiting you. I could have made this a separate video, just Mamedyarov loses in 9 moves. But no, this is it. And the point is that you can't take because of this, and you can't move your knight because of this. So the best thing you can do is try to create some sort of tactics where you lose material, but you have some attack. But yeah, I mean, Yesipenko just stays solid. He begins shredding open the king side because he has more material. Queen f5. And yeah, I mean, this is not getting taken because the queen or the bishop is hanging, and Yesipenko just wins. He brings his rook and his queen, and that's it. I mean, he just won. So I told you, appetizer game. So that's how we get started for the new season. We lose in 9 moves. The next game, though, Magnus Carlsen himself. Let's see how his first game is going to go on this campaign. I saw on Reddit Chess, somebody posted an article that was in Norwegian that was saying that Carlsen had COVID. That wasn't on any English-speaking news, and I'm not sure how credible a news source on Reddit Chess is, but if Magnus is ill, we wish him all the best. Let's see what he does against Artemiev. Castles, bishop g7, and it's clear what Magnus is trying to do. He's trying to go back to his Catalan stuff, which he has just been he's been a menace, Magnus, okay? He's been like the Dylan Dennis of, well, that's not really accurate because Dylan Dennis fights no one. But, he's been like just an absolute menace with this Catalan. He plays c4, so it's a neo-Catalan, so he might not actually get a d4 on the board because black has a fianchetto. Not Mamedyarov. Artemiev takes on c4. We have knight a3, castles, and knight takes c4. So this is the way white chooses to regain his pawn, and then white develops his bishop to b2. And develops his rook and develops his pawn. Okay, so we have the following position where you've developed absolutely everything by both parties, knights, bishops. So now what? So how is Magnus going to beat one of the strongest players in the world in Russia? Queen d2. Rook d1. Now it's time to actually go forward. Knight goes to e5. Artemiev takes and plays queen d6, and now Magnus strikes on the queen side with the move b4. Now, that just looks like a free pawn. But the point is that he will now grant himself access to the to the c6 square, and then he will be pressuring everything. This pawn can be won back, but also that's under attack. Bishop e5 is an idea. For example, rook d7, bishop e5 traps the queen. Yeah, sucks to suck. So Artemiev naturally doesn't take, but what now begins to happen is a massive trade of pieces. Literally, it's takes, takes. Okay, so queen, rook, bishop, 6 pawns each. How do you win a position like this? Step 1, be named Magnus Carlsen. Step 2, advance a little bit of your pawns. Step 3, 4 question marks. Step 4, profit. So that's, well, Magnus is doing all of those things. Now, the position is still completely equal, but because white has a little bit of a space advantage, which is basically all you really need to give Magnus at this point. I mean, you don't have to give him that much. You just e5, and white is going to create really annoying problems. Black apparently has to just play passively and allow themselves to get trampled. Like, the computer is legitimately advocating for this and trying to say that it's still 0-0-0. Stubborn as a puppy. But Artemiev plays e5, and now the problem is that Magnus has been given a pass pawn. Now, the position, according to the machine, is still completely equal. It doesn't actually believe that white is better at all. So Magnus just sends us to a queen endgame and plays queen f2, queen c5, and we're in a position now where Artemiev has to choose. Does he go queen a4 to hit this and protect and go like this? Or does he come on the other side? Which way is he going to go? He has one or two choices. One choice, he dies. The other choice, he saves the game. He chooses wrong. Why does he choose wrong? Because there's check, and he blunders that after king g8, it's not this move. It's not that move, because then it's a draw. It's this move, and those extra checks in endgames are so difficult to calculate. It's a check that deliberately bounces the enemy king into a check. I like to call that the boomerang technique. When you like kind of, you know, you hit him with a check, then you come right back. But because of the difference in the square of the enemy king, it's a check. So Artemiev decides not to even do that, but instead of that, he just ends up in an endgame where Magnus outcalculates him. Watch. Magnus outcalculates him. He outcalculates him in the following way. A4. It's going to be a pawn race, right? Takes, B3. Oh, sorry, takes, d6, b3, take, d7, b2, queen. Ah, damn, Magnus screwed it up. Except, he didn't, because it's mate. Ladies and gentlemen, Magnus Carlsen wins his first game of the 2022 campaign. Next game I have for you, Eric Hansen versus Pragnananda Rameshbabu. Now, this is the cool thing about the Airthings Masters. There are players here who are at the top, who are Magnus Carlsen, who are Я не помнящий, etc., Dingli Ren. Hikaru is not participating in this first edition because he's playing the Chess.com Rapid Championship. But there also are players like Eric Hansen, who's like a 26, I don't know what his rating is, 2630, 2640, but obviously runs the Chess Broad channel, probably the tallest player in the field, hands down top 2, top 3 in terms of handsomeness. I would be willing to bet he bench presses more than anybody else in the field as well. So you got to invite a guy like that who's also got the big channel. Pragg is Pragg. So there's a lot of interesting players here, and I'm going to try to showcase all their games. Hansen won his first round, and so I think it was against Hans Niemann, if I'm not mistaken. And so he begins the second round with a Rui, and now we have what's called an Arkhangelsk with b5 and bishop c5. Like I've been holding this out here, not drinking it for so long. Don't worry too much about the theory. I know that there's other channels on YouTube that recap games and will spend 15 minutes analyzing the theoretical nuances of the opening, and then you complain that I'm not as detailed as them, and that's why I'm superficial and you shouldn't watch me. But those people aside, Rap God, by the way, this position reached on move 14 between Hansen and Pragg. His last name is also like, almost, you could say it like Handsome, Eric Handsome. Wow. I mean, that's why they invite him to this event. So they are following a game between Robbie Kevlashvili, who I actually played in a chess tournament recently, and Firouzja in 2019, when Firouzja was a tiny rating of 2,670. Trash. So bishop takes e4. And black is grabbing a pawn, but surrendering the bishop pair to white. So you'll notice that white has the two bishops, but black has the extra pawn, right? So rook on c1 coming in, getting this knight out of the way and launching some attack would be something that white wants to do. So Hansen does those things. He plays the knight to the middle, he puts the rook on c1, and now Pragg is ready to explode the queen side and take over the game because he's a pawn up, and if he no longer has any weaknesses, he's going to be in good shape. And here, Eric is like, I'm not going to get bullied by a 16-year-old teenager on the other side of the world who's playing at like 11 p.m., which is what a lot of these players are going through. I'm going to play rook c3, and the idea of this move is not to protect my bishop, but rather go right there. And at this point, Pragg is probably thinking, oh, that's kind of unpleasant. I have two horses and a bishop and nobody to guard my king. So he brings his queen. The problem is that's an overextension. This is an overreaction to a threat that doesn't exist. And apparently just a very simple f6, kicking the knight out and playing like queen d7. And yeah, white's attack isn't quite there. But again, thank God I'm not playing the games. I'm just here to analyze them to the best viewers in the world, particularly those that complain about me. Queen to h4, h4, and now, can we just like quickly address what happened there? The queen came, was kicked out, and left. So Eric's like, well, I'm just going to keep attacking. I mean, nothing's changed, right? Now here, after knight takes b3, it seems like a big win for black because white is going to take, and maybe you can even play knight c2, hit the rook, knight d4, hit this, get the knight back. But Eric had something in mind after knight takes b3. And here he uncorked pure savagery. He played, after getting his bishop taken, knight takes f7, which looks like an idiotic move. I mean, like, if you just look at it, rook f7, right? But wait a minute. Wait a minute. What? That you just lose. You lose on the spot. So knight takes f7, even though that square is covered twice, can't be taken, because king takes f7, queen e6 is mate. You might have not seen that. Eric saw that. That's why he played knight takes f7. So, I mean, knight takes f7 is like, wait, what the hell? But you got to realize there's stuff happening all over the board. Positions like this are really difficult for beginner, intermediate players because pieces are flying everywhere. You ever feel like you just can't keep track of everything? Everything sees everything else. So h5, Pragg tries to escape, but queen just slides back to h3. You still can't take, but the best move here actually was to take. He should have taken first, and then he can escape with a knight with check. And then I believe the best move is just to take on h5 and continue the attack. After queen h3, there's a shocking only move by black, which is bishop takes f2 check. So both guys sacrifice on f2 in seemingly nonsense ways in order to throw off the other's coordination. So now the queen is hit, the queen has to go that way. Crazy. Pragg takes on c3. We have knight takes d8. Bishop now takes on f2, and he just slides right out of there. He slides right out of there. In the words of the Chess Broad channel, the dad bod shuffle. I think that's what they say. If not, then just ignore me. Rook takes g3, queen e6, and the game is still going. I mean, Hansen's on a move away from delivering a mate. Pragg is 2 moves away. Maybe like 3 moves. Yeah, probably more like 3 moves. Also, why does he just have 2 horses grazing in the field over here? And this horse is on the road. Like, it's just going to get hit by a truck. G6, one that's not occupying a capital. G6, knight to f7 check, king g7, current events joke, did you like that? King g7, and now these 3 pieces are just going to get to this king. I mean, there is just absolutely nothing else that can happen. Takes. Unless you're a citizen of Ottawa, then that must be a nightmare to deal with. Rook takes g5, or other cities where it's really noisy. So mate is now being threatened, and yeah, I mean, if you actually just count the material, this would be a great guess the eval example. New series. Black is up material, but the problem is that black's pieces are so stupid that they're not doing anything. It's only one person hunting the other. And here Hansen does have to be a bit careful. Like, he can take the knight, which he does, but, you know, you still have to, like, not hang a mate by accident. So he brings the queen, gives a couple of checks, and it looks like, you know, there might be an escape in the future, but there isn't. Rook takes d5, queen d7, and he does the very practical thing. Sometimes when you're up material, if you can transform the position and be slightly less up material, like this, but the practicality of this is black is left with a bishop. Pragg's really good, but he's not going to do anything with a bishop, unless throw it at his opponent, which is why these games are played online, because Pragg has violent tendencies. I'm just kidding, Pragg. You're great. I just need to make jokes in order to not fall asleep while recording, because my puppy makes it impossible to sleep at night. Okay, so Eric Hansen is 2 for 2, so 6 points. Remember I told you soccer football scoring? Wonderful. Now, next game I'd like to show you is the game between none other than Hans Niemann versus young Krzysztof Duda. If you look at Hans' rating graph in the last 2 years, it is insane. All right, it is like the amount, the graph is like the amount of cases of depression over the last 2 years and anxiety. I mean, like, let's just keep it real. D4, and Hans really likes to play the Joe Bava London. I've actually had the misfortune of playing against him once with black when he played this, and it just didn't go very well at all. It's a very practical weapon for blitz. This is rapid, but okay, it's still a very practical weapon. It's also very practical because good players kind of freak out when they see it, not because they're scared of it, because they're sort of annoyed. So Duda plays c5. Now, we have a reverse Chigorin defense. So the Chigorin defense is d4, d5, queen's gambit, knight c6, white to move, right? But we have this now, except white has an extra move. Normally it's black's move here, aka white's move. I'm probably confusing you. But now Hans plays e4, and we have this position now. This is the Albin counter gambit. So what am I talking about? c4, e5, takes d4. Now imagine this position with black, except black gets the move knight c6. Just an extra move. Well, that's what happens in this game. We have an Albin counter gambit. This guy just gets an extra turn. So obviously this is better. It's a good situation for white. So knight f6, and here Hans plays a move in a position that's been played so many times. He plays knight e2, which has almost never been played in the database, ever. And it's the best move. It's the best move. Knight e2, and the point is that you play knight f4 and you pressure this pawn. If black takes, then you play knight f takes d5. Okay, like takes, let's say knight takes d5. Sorry, it's better to play queen takes. And the point is that you hit and you're just gonna win the pawn back. Just ate lunch and a leftover piece of spicy pepper just made it down my throat in the middle of a recap, and I feel like I'm gonna just have a coughing fit. Oh my God. I just felt my life flash before my eyes. Oh, you ever had that happen? That's terrifying stuff. Jesus. Okay, so queen takes d5, right? This is the idea, and the point is that you want to get into c7, and white is just better. In this game, Duda played a6, which prevents knight b5, and Hans transformed the game like this, and in this position, played the move knight to a4. Now, keep an eye on this knight, because Hans in this game doesn't just play a game of chess, he plays a game of equestrian. Because at the sport of equestrian, he just, that knight is his noble steed, and he rides it off into the sunset like in Shrek 1 or 2. I don't remember. 1? It's been a while since I watched Shrek. It's not been a while since I've seen Shrek because I look in the mirror every day. Knight to a4. We're trying to get to b6. We're trying to fork. We have bishop to d7. Now, you wonder why he just didn't block? Well, because this. So that doesn't quite work. So now we have a really ugly situation on the board because one guy's rook is just being jailed by the knight and nobody can get rid of this knight. If you play bishop d6 in here, I'm just going to take on e6. So, okay, you play e5, kick me, you try to kick me out, I just get closer. All right, I'm just annoying. Knight c6, and the thing what Duda's trying to do now, because Duda's getting attacked by 4 different pieces, he's got to find a way to stop it. Like, he's got to find a way to take off Hans' initiative. So Hans doesn't get a trade. He doesn't trade anything. Gets out of the check with his king. And again, the point is that he wants to avoid trades as long as possible. Now, there are opposite there's a rook and a king on the opposite side of the file. So what do? You try to open it up. You know that en passant is possible, but you've studied the sacred art of en passant, and you know that the capture is almost always forced, but you don't have to recapture. So bishop takes d4, rook e5, devastating attack. So Duda is 2750, so he doesn't know about anarchy chess, and he takes on f4, and we have this, c3, the knight is getting booted, and again, this knight is just causing a problem. Now, some people here would take the knight and part ways with the knight, but not Hans. He plays knight to c8, attacking this. I told you, this knight, check, takes b7. This knight has had an insane journey. Look at this journey. Those are all the knight moves that have occurred. Now, someone's got to rescue that knight, all right, because it's going to get trapped. So what does he do now? Takes on d4. You might ask yourself, why didn't he just move his knight? That's great, but knight e6. Knight c5. So Bishop b6. And now Duda, at the cost of some material, is going to try to have that knight on b7 trapped. And he has two very powerful pawns making it down the middle. So now Hans has to defend. You know what they say. The most dangerous type of grandmaster is the one that is wounded. So, you know, he's under some pressure, and he's going to be playing very aggressively to try to create some counterplay. And he's kind of trying to do that, right? He's sacrificing. His pawns are trying to march down. If he can get his bishop around somewhere, maybe he can even deliver some weird mating net. Here's the problem. That's all hoopla. As scary as this looks, it's not scary. It's scary. So this king is going to go to d3 if it even wants, or maybe b1, a1. And at the end of the day, one guy has two rooks, and the other guy has one. And I don't care how many names that guy has, or how many consonants he can fit together in his first name. Krzysztof. Yo, Polish names are like superhuman. They have no vowels at all. I mean, Y is kind of a vowel, but it's like half a vowel. It's like Pluto. It's not really a planet. Rook f8, and Hans wins. Hans cleans up. He actually does something very similar to Hansen. He simplifies the position down, and you know, he makes the trades. He doesn't sacrifice any material to do it, but he just, again, the less pieces that the defending side has, the better. What a game by Hans. He begins the game with a you know, an attempt to throw his opponent off, gets the game into completely fresh territory, and the journey of this night, it made it around like the entire board, right? It hopped to c8, it hopped to d6, b7, and it survived for a very, very long time until it was unfortunately time to simplify, and it had to be exchanged, it had to be sacrificed for the greater good on move 40 to get the bishop. But Hans wins a nice game, and Hans also won his fourth game of the day. He didn't win 4 games, I'm saying his fourth round. He beat Levon. So awesome day for Hans. Hansen had some good games. I'd like to show you this, actually we'll save this for last. I'd like to show you this game between Jan Nepomniachtchi and Anish Giri. This one was quite fun. It was Anish playing the Najdorf, and that is how you know it's really him. Not a hacker, because he does have that Najdorf course. But, you know, Jan plays the Najdorf himself. And he sent this game on a main line, so bishop 2e2. And this is an ultra mainline position. Now, here Black can play other moves, but bishop e6 is very standard. Now, here there are multiple plans. Generally, the battle is about the d5 square in the Najdorf, so Black tries to have good support on it. White tries to infiltrate, trade, transform the position. White also tries to expand on the queen side, prevent b5, mobilize, get some attack. Not that move that hangs a knight. That was a misclick. Sometimes White plays f4. This is a very common variation as well. Sometimes White plays queen d2. Now, a couple of days ago, Jan played Rook e1 against Giri, like literally 5 days ago. I think it was in the Rapid Championship on chess.com. Anish in that game played the move knight bd7. Jan went on to win, not because of knight bd7, but because of chess. In this game, Jan repeats Rook e1. Now, Rook e1, according to the database, is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10th most popular move in this position. 10th most popular. This, knight d5, h3, a3, like literally everything has been played more. Rook e1 has almost never been played because what are you doing? There's literally 6 pieces on the e-file. You are never, ever going to come alive. But here's the idea. Queen d2, bishop f3, knight d5, and now we're sort of starting to see what's going to happen because notice how Anish expands, kicks the knight out, and brings the knight to... Wait a minute, so this entire time, Jan was a genius. I mean, are you kidding me? Which sort of makes you ask, should Anish have looked for something different? Like, in this position, should he have gone for maybe e4 as a move? And the point is that, yes, you can play this, but then there's ef3, and at least, okay, like, this rook is going to be delayed a little bit in its opening, and White loses a very powerful bishop. Yes, there is this move, but okay, we're not going to hang our rook. And this is the last thing White wants to open up. But Anish seemed to think that this entire plan was silly by White, and opposite-colored bishops are, you know, good for Black. The problem is that now after queen takes d4, White is just a pawn up. Black plays knight d7 to try to create counterplay on this diagonal, and he does. I mean, he does have some very nagging counterplay. I believe here the best move for White was queen b4, or a3, bishop f6, and then queen b4, to just not allow that to happen. But Jan plays this, queen b4 now, and even offers the a2 pawn. So he says, go ahead and take it. Now we have knight back to d3, and queen b7 is a free pawn, but then c2 is also under fire. So what we get now is a trade and g3. Okay, so who is better here and why? Nobody. Trick question. It's 0-0-0 if you're Stockfish. But if you're a human being, opposite colored bishop situation is actually quite nice for white, because what is white going to do? He's going to rook lift just like Eric Hansen. Then he's going to play king g2, h4, g5, like g4, g5. And one guy actually has a direct line of assault toward the enemy king. So opposite colored bishops favor the attacking side. Watch Jan go to work. So Giri puts his bishop on c5. No one's debating that that's a bad square for the bishop. Queen b5. Now, a couple of recaps ago, I said there's a difference sometimes between active pieces and active pieces. Bishop on c5 is an active piece. It's like, it fits the description, but only in name. It's not actually in the quality. Same goes for this rook, and kind of the queen. When this queen gets on this diagonal, it has a very tangible threat, and I did just tell you that Jan is going to start expanding. And it's still 0-0-0. Stockfish is like, there's no attack here. None. But one guy has the prospects, right? He gives a check, right? King f8. Now, I think here Anish had to keep his queen on. I don't exactly understand the difference, but here's the difference. Rook e7, and I don't think you can play queen e7 here because like of the way that your kind of king is, like bishop g6. And if you play rook e7, then all of a sudden you still can't protect yourself. The difference is that if you had gone to d8 and white went for the same bishop h7, he could have gone king h8. But in the game after this, you cannot go king h8 because of rook takes f7. Ouch. If you go here, I take your queen. If you go here, I mate you. So the queen had to stay guarding both rooks. So the pressure pays off. Jan crashes through, capitalizing on the light squares. Now, it's still a battle, but you're going to watch as I click the forward arrow. I mean, Jan is attacking, right? And Anish is counterattacking. But when you're a great player like Jan, they're just checks. They're just checks. Now, in your case, you hang mate. You go, oh, it's just check. It's mate. But in his case, the king goes to g4, and he just blocks with his rook, and he's like, there's no more checks. Or his pawn. Or his pawn. His king is completely nuzzled in with the pieces. Come give me a big hug. And now, folks, I just want to draw your attention to something as we just click to the final moves of the game. Rook h4, and Anish resigns. His bishop never moved. I was not trying to insult the bishop when I called it active, but it never moved. Anish put his bishop on c5, and it proceeded to spend the next 26 moves there. Opposite colored bishops favor the attacking side. Great day for Jan. He did very, very well. Last game I'd like to show you is the game between Andrei Yesipenko and Magnus Carlsen. You say, Levy, my God, all right? You really love Magnus way too much. Look, he's the GOAT. I got to show his games. So these two have a little bit of a rivalry. I mean, like a media-made rivalry, you know. In sports media, they play things up for like absolutely no reason. Yesipenko did beat Magnus in Classical. They had a big battle at the World Cup on the chessboard, not physical. This one was in Italian, and it was actually some style that Yesipenko played recently against Hikaru, like a very early a4. Magnus doesn't let him have any fun. He plays a5, knight b4, and we have a position where Magnus basically says, look, man, I'm going to take this damage to my center. I know you're going to try to play for d4. I'm going to try to play for d5. I'm going to have this active rook. Maybe I'll move my knight out of the way. And Yesipenko says, okay, c3, and if you're so smart, d4. You might say, what the hell happened there? Why did Magnus go knight d7? Well, I think he wanted to go d5. So h3, I think this is protected, and now d5. And bishop activates and everybody activates. The problem is that bishop e3 suddenly makes it really difficult for black to make a move. So I guess Magnus's logic was, well, now he blocked his defense, so I'm going to go back. And I always have a target, right? Because you didn't have that target before. Knight g4 before was just a dumb move. But after takes d5, I think what Magnus might have overlooked here is the fact that e5, which is the entire point, and knight g4, right? Knight g4 hits the bishop, or maybe even knight e4, because there's no rook. That's the whole point. That's why Magnus did that whole dance. Magnus might have missed that here there's a concept of danger levels. Knight g5. And all of a sudden, after you defend this, e5, you can't go here or here or here. Because my queen covers out everything. And the knight covers this. Beautiful little in-between move, knight e8. Now Magnus is just much worse. It's much worse because after this knight comes back to h3, queen g4 comes, knight f4 comes, knight h5 comes. Very similar to the Hansen game, right? Just put everything over there and maybe good things will happen. I don't know. I don't know. Queen g4, knight f4, knight h5. Where's this knight on e8 going? Now, again, you let Stockfish run here. It goes, there's no attack. Shut up. Leave me out of this. I'm done getting in the way of all your dumb drama. So Magnus plays rook a6. Obvious idea, right? He wants some stuff on the queen side. Look, basically Stockfish is unafraid because it thinks that at some point you go here and everything you cause, like havoc on the queen side, will be able to translate this way. Because that's the way Stockfish works. It's like, while I harass you over there, you can't attack me. Rook a6, rook b6, knight... I mean, you know, Magnus isn't Stockfish. He's Magnus. He's doing his best. He's doing it in a way where he's going to give away e6 and play rook f7 defending the position. Okay, let's see if he's going to be successful. g6, rook b1, takes, and now knight b4. Okay, but now Yesipenko plays knight e2. Why? Because this was the only piece not doing anything. His rook is doing something, knight on e6, bishop is strong, but this knight can't go anywhere. So he brings it back. Take a step back to take 2 steps forward. Magnus plays c6, defending the queen side, bishop into h6, preventing movement. That's all you're doing. You're preventing bishop f8 and knight g7. This knight can't move. When that knight got shunned to e8, Yesipenko was like, that bastard is never moving again. Ever. As far as I'm concerned, never, ever, ever. Rook f5, g4. Where are you going? Go back. Oh, you want to come forward? Okay. Now I got to lock you in the cage. Now you might say, well, now he can play knight g7. Yes. But then his rook is gone. He has to part ways with his rook, or he has to make really bad weaknesses in his position. So instead of that, Magnus does this. Knight f4, knight h5. That rook is stuck. That rook is stuck. Magnus is going to have to desperately run away, but h4, it's a beautiful move. If you take, it's not rook h1. I mean, I could go there, but it's this. And I just march you down. I just march you down. You just have nothing. You just have absolutely nothing. h6, Yesipenko continues to ride in with his knights. Knight takes e7. Don't give away a bishop for a knight unless there's a good reason. In this case, I don't think black had much of a choice because the attack continues, and these 3 pawns will decide the game, and they do. f4, king g3, knight f6. I mean, literally just beautiful, like ride forward. f5, and that's it. It's game over. Black can sacrifice. Doesn't really matter. He decides to do this. And just resigns. He just resigns because look at this pawn army. Rook e1, rook e7. By the way, this knight just did nothing. Kind of interesting in this recap how we saw these pieces that sort of participated in the game, but were ended up just deemed useless because of how powerful the enemy attack was. So Magnus actually lost his last 2 rounds. I mean, he's a bit under the weather. What can you do? So obviously hoping that he gets better health-wise. And bounces back. He's in 11th place after the first day with 1.5 out of 4, or whatever that translates to, 4 points out of 12. Ding Liren is in first place, 3 wins and 1 draw. You say, Levy, what, how are you going to drop that on me after this? Ding Liren, you didn't show any of his games. I didn't show his games because 2 of his games were extremely long. And one of his games was, I think it was just a very, very similar opening to something that I looked at today. But we're going to look at Ding Liren games, guys. Guys, it's day 1. Also, why are you complaining? I mean, I know I just invented that complaint, but I will show Ding Liren games. Because he's playing these games at 4 in the morning. Do you understand that these games start at like 11, 12 o'clock Eastern time? That's literally midnight. He plays till 4, and then he goes to sleep. And then he wakes up and he's a boss. He's Ding Liren. So, first place after the first day of the prelims. Hopefully he can keep it up. Link in the description if you want to know more information about the tournament. The prize fund for the Airthings Masters is like 150 grand. The prize fund for the entire tour is 1.6 million. Hope you enjoyed. I'll see you tomorrow. Benji slept. That's why he wasn't in today's recap. Get out of here.